Namaste! For this video, we are going to talk about a really important thing for a long distance relationship, which is money. For this video, let's start in the year 2018 when I met my fiancé. I did my requirements I think in the middle of the 6 months of my review in Cebu. So yeah, let's start in the year 2018. I'm not sure about the month, but it is somewhere in 2018. So this is the time when I renew my passport, because since I'm already in Cebu and it's near to have my passport renewed, so I did it there in Cebu. So this is for renewing my passport. We paid 1,500 pesos for the other requirements which is needed for the renewing of the passport, and then we paid 950 pesos for the processing for 15 days, and then 500 pesos for travel expense. And I did not spend for the accommodation since I was already in Cebu for my PRC review that time. So a total of 2,950 pesos for renewing my passport. Next is on November of 2018. This is the time when I met my fiancé for the first time. I included this computation here because this is one of the really important thing that CFO is gonna ask you, which is your proof of your relationship. They will ask you photos and conversations with you and your fiancé, and then this is going to be a really important proof to them, like you're meeting each other. So I put it here because of that reason. So my fiancé spent 4,000 pesos for his visa, 500 pesos for miscellaneous expenses related to his visa, 13,017 pesos for air tickets back and forth only to Cebu, and this is a steal deal that he got, 1,000 pesos for Delhi to airport and airport to Delhi cab, and then 4,000 pesos for boat ticket from Cebu to my province, which you can see on my first met video, and then 2,000 pesos for transit expense, 4,000 pesos for air ticket when we went together to Cebu and when I go home alone, and then we spent 35,000 pesos for food and travel for 14 days for 2 people, and then 5,000 pesos for miscellaneous. So the total for November 2018 is 68,517 pesos. Total expense for year 2018, 71,467 pesos. You multiply it by 2% average currency conversion and fees. So the total expense for 2018 is 72,896 pesos or 111,585 rupees. So on November 2019, this is the second time that I met my fiancé with his father for our engagement. They paid 3,920 pesos for their visa, my fiancé and his father, 26,034 pesos for plane tickets for both back and forth, and this is a steal deal that they got, 653 pesos for cab, 3,000 pesos for transit expenses, 2,000 pesos for the air ticket from Cebu to my province for my fiancé and his father, and this is also a steal deal that they got, and then 14,000 pesos for food and travel for 14 days for 2 people, 3,000 pesos for miscellaneous. For November 2019, the total is 52,607 pesos. And then on November, when my fiancé and his father is going back home, I joined with them and we already got my CFO appointment that time. So on this same month, we processed my CFO, and then I paid 155 pesos for birth certificate, 210 pesos for my Cinnamor as proof that I'm single there at the CFO office, and then 4,000 pesos for plane tickets back and forth to Cebu. Going there, I went with my fiancé and his father, and then going home, I went alone. So 4,000 pesos for that, and then 400 pesos for the CFO registration, 6,000 pesos for hotel accommodation for 3 days for 3 people, 2,000 pesos for food and transport for 3 days for 3 people. So the total for November is 12,765 pesos. And this is only for getting the CFO and my fiancé coming here. This time I did not get my CFO certificate because my document is not complete So yeah, this also doesn't include the engagement expenses. So the total expense for 2019 is 65,372 pesos. You multiply it by 2% for average currency conversion and fees. So the total expense for 2019 is 66,679 pesos, or 102,068 rupees. Then let's go to January of 2020. This is the time that I'm preparing to go to India on March of 2018, which was cancelled. So next is for January of 2020. I spent 800 pesos for the affidavit of consent to marry because hey, I'm really planning to go to India to marry my fiancé, and this includes a paper from the judge. And then spent 100 pesos for travel expense. So on January 2020, the total is 900 pesos. For February of 2020, we spent 210 for Cinemar, 155 pesos for birth certificate. We got a new one because Cinemar has an expiration date of 6 months, and I'm going to India on March of 2020, so I needed to get a new one so it will still be valid when I go to India. So my fiancé paid 4,000 pesos for my fiancé's lacking requirements for CFO. The CFO asked for proof that my fiancé is single, so my fiancé did some papers for that. And then he paid 1,800 pesos for the courier documents from India to Philippines. And then we spent 2,000 pesos or $40 for the 1-year e-visa payment, 4,000 pesos for ticket traveling to and fro to Cebu because I went back to Cebu to get my CFO certificate, 500 pesos. This is for apostilling my paper. So I went to Cebu to apostille my Cinemar, my birth certificate, and my affidavit of consent to marry from a lawyer and from the judge. But yeah, they did not really accept it because they need an authorization letter from my parents. So I paid 500 pesos for the apostille stuff, but I did not get my papers back because they don't want to apostille my consent to marry because I don't have authorization letter. So 2,000 pesos for the Airbnb accommodation for 3 days, 2,000 pesos for food and travel expense, and then 1,000 pesos miscellaneous. So on February of 2020, we spent 17,665 pesos, and my papers are finally complete. I was able to get my CFO during this time. So on March of 2020, this is supposed to be my flying date, but it was cancelled because of COVID. We paid 210 for Cinemar and 155 pesos for birth certificate. We got this again because we thought that my flight will be rescheduled, and I'm hoping that my papers will still be valid when I will be in India. 2,000 pesos ticket to Manila, which I did not use. 2,000 pesos ticket from Manila to Cebu, which was supposed to be my travel, Cebu to Singapore and then Singapore to India. 2,700 pesos ticket from Cebu to Singapore that my fiancé got. 9,000 pesos ticket from Singapore to India, and 1,000 pesos for miscellaneous. The total for March of 2020 is 17,065 pesos. So the total expense for 2020, 34,730 pesos multiplied by 2% average currency conversion and fees. So the total expense for 2020 is 35,424 pesos or 54,225 rupees. So the overall expense from 2018 to 2020 is 174,999 pesos or 267,878 rupees. So this expense is only an estimate of what we calculated. I talked this out with my fiance and brainstorm about the expenses that we get, so we can show you a figure. This is only an estimate. Maybe what we spent is less or more, but my fiance is sure that it is more than this. But yeah, we did this so that we can give you a figure so that you can figure it out how much you need to spend to meet each other. And this is also going to be different for other people because I live in the Philippines and in the province, and so it might be different if you are already in the big cities here in the Philippines, like the tickets and the hotel accommodations and stuff. So yeah, my tickets on March of 2020 were refunded. My domestic flights and my international flights were all refunded. Our expenses is going to be different for next year because it's gonna be more expensive, and I still need to process my visa because my e-visa is no longer valid. They no longer accept e-visas. They need the real visa that you need to get there in Manila. So we need to spend for that again, and for other expenses that I'm gonna be spending there in Manila, and finally for the ticket from Manila to India. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned something and you have idea of how much money you really needed to meet each other, especially for the Filipina to go to India. So that's it for this video, and thank you so much for watching, and see you on the next video. Bye bye.